Okay, Brenda is also online. Hello, team. Alexei is going to go over this aggregation architecture within CDS. Go ahead, Alexei.
Thank you, Yuri. Hello, team. Thank you for being patient. I hope the audio now is better. So what I'm going to talk about now is about, before the disaggregation, I'm going to talk just a little bit about the resource resolution in the blueprint processor, how it works today, what we do, and the idea behind disaggregating it from this microservice and having another microservice handling it 100%. Okay. So today, when you do resolution, resource resolution, you're using one of the functions that is available in CDS. If you recall a little bit what I presented yesterday, these are mainly the functions that CDS are offering, and one of them is the resource resolution. So when you're using this function, the idea behind it is that you're trying to resolve resources and later point in time to input them within a template. So at the end of the day, you will resolve some resource and you will resolve some template. And templates, see them as, you know, a netconf XML template or CLI template or a JSON gRPC template or whatever type of template, okay? Now the idea of resource resolution is to be able to couple that resource resolution to a given resource. And the resource is something that is an NAI resource. And so to be able to identify that resource, so whenever we execute an action on CDS, it's for a given NAI resource, whether it's a PNF, whether it's a VNF, whether it's a VF module or higher level service. You want to be able to correlate what you're doing for the resolution to that resource. And in this case, you would use and you would provide the resource ID resource type to the execution of this function as input. And if you do that, all the resolution that you're going to have down the road that is going to be stored into the CDS database is going to be accessible as well through REST API. And let me quickly show the REST API. And through this a combination of resource action and resource type. Give me 1 second. Okay. Is it clear so far what I'm saying? So we have the resource resolution function that exists in CDS, and we want to couple this to a given resource that exists in NAI. So that way it's easy to track down what's going on. And we can leverage resource ID resource type from the function that we want to execute. Here it's component resource resolution. And if I show you quickly the table in the database, so for the resource or for the template, you see that you have resource ID resource type, resource ID resource type. So this is how we're going to correlate. And again, at the API layer, we have a Swagger, and the Swagger allows you, among other things, you have the resource controller and the template controller, and you can retrieve either all the resources for the given resource ID resource type, or just one specific resource for the, this is not a good example. Yeah, so you can get all the resources so far. The other API is bound to something else. And let me explain now what is that something else. And for the template, likewise, you can retrieve the templates for the given resource ID resource type.
Question. What's the difference between using the resource ID resource type and the resolution key? Because I know.
Hey, don't spoil. I'm going there. Okay, so I don't know if you heard the question on the bridge. The question is, what's the difference between resource ID, resource type, and resolution key? And this is a very good segue to where I'm going, actually. So if you understood correctly, resource ID, resource type, the idea is that this is an NAI resource, okay? So like PNF, VNF, service instance, VF module, vServer, pServer, whatever is the resource that you care about for your action, the type is going to be the object, basically, and the ID is going to be the NAI ID, okay? But then, why resolution key is, you might have some use cases where you don't want to tie the resolution or anything to a given resource of NAI. It might occur that, doing proof of concept or doing something on the side, or if you have just a provisioning action to do, then you can provide just a resolution key, and it will work the same way as the combination of resource ID, resource type in the backend. So, and we do actually enforce that. Either you provide a resource ID, resource type, either you provide a resolution key. One or the other, never both. If you provide both, then the system will tell you, hey, you have to pick one or the other, okay? So all that is enforced in the system. But the idea is whether you use resolution key or resource ID, resource type, the functionality behind is the same. So that's why at the API layer, it's not enforced which one needs to be used. But if you provide the three of them, it won't work. If you provide this, I mean, you get to understand why.
So I have a question. So we have our template and our content that is generated based on, the result data that we do based on the parameters that we extract. So is this correlating to our template?
Yes, exactly. So the template controller here is to retrieve the resolved template. And you can retrieve the resolved template, and you need to specify, what is the blueprint name, blueprint version, and artifact name. Artifact name, maybe the name is not great, it's the name of the template itself that you want to retrieve.
Right. So we have our template content, right?
Yes.
Which is resolved based on our capabilities.
Right.
And those capabilities are basically the response output that we get, right?
Yes.
And then we are persisting that response output in the resource, either as resource resolution key or resource ID and
resource type.
Resource type.
Yes.
How do we correlate for each of our capabilities, what is the ID and resource type?
Good question. This is provided as input the resource resolution component. So as part of the model, you're going to define whether you want to leverage resource ID, resource type, or resource resolution key. As well, there is another flag, store result, okay? So first, if you want to leverage the capability to store, you need to explicitly say you want to store the result.
Right, but this flag is more at the higher level, it's not at the capability level.
It's higher level always.
Yeah, so my question is, are we, because we can get, our capabilities can get data from anywhere, right? You can get data from Netbox,
Yes.
You can get data from, our OSS, BSS there. Are we just tying that to a given ANI resource? That's what we're trying to achieve here?
In CDS, yes.
And what is the benefit of that?
So the benefit is to be able to see on a quick glimpse using these APIs what are all the resources or all the templates that I have for that given resource, NAI resource. And also in the concept of life cycle of the resource is to be able to manage them later point in time. So right now, when I instantiate, okay, I'm saying that it has been assigned, but later point in time, if I want to unassign or if I want to update and so on and so forth, I can manage the life cycle of each resource either independently, either globally, and likewise for the template.
Right, but for the life cycle, it may not be enough just to store the value.
No, we're storing the state as well.
You might even have to store the keys, right?
No, but okay, maybe you should have a closer look at the table.
Okay.
So when we're storing resources, we do store, so all the context, blueprint version, blueprint name, artifact name, we do store the data dictionary,
yes,
name and version, along with the status, whether success, failure, assign, unassign, etc. And obviously we're storing the reference data here. We're storing the name of the resource that we resolved through this data dictionary. Yeah. So
where's the external, like for example for Netbox, right? We generate an external key. If we want to unassign that Netbox IP assignment, we're passing the ID.
Yeah, so that is the resolution, resource resolution ID, but it's auto-generated for now.
Right, so there should be something else that you need to store the external keys?
Resource ID and resource type.
Right, because
No, but
that resolution ID is just a...
External key to the external system.
Yes,
No, but this is not in the context of the external system.
but you said that this is also supporting like an assignment of...
No, not yet, not yet.
Okay, okay.
We don't have, so this is
No,
what...
I'm trying, if you want to get there, we need something...
Exactly, but this is not, today, we don't manage life cycle. That's part of the discussion now.
Okay, okay, okay.
Exactly.
All right, very good, very good. Now...
Yes, yeah, it has not, exactly, that's not solved yet, and that's, next step.
Okay, so right now what you have is just the way that for all your templates, you have a way to store all the names and the values and the capabilities we use to solve them.
Exactly.
You bound them to some ID or some key that...
Exactly. So that way you can correlate for any given resource of NAI what exists in the controller. And because the benefit of this also is, if you recall, like with this intent that we create when we create an action, this is storing the value, the resolve value for that given intent as well. That's what we're storing here as well. And we're storing the template. At the end of the day, it's the I don't know if I want to call it a model, but from this intent, this is what I derived as a template for the config.
This is like similar to what we do in MDSAL, kind of.
Yes. Yes, this is similar to what we do in MDSAL.
Very good.
Absolutely.
I have a question. You said like AI resource is specific to AI resource only, or like can be resources in
It's generic. So this is up to the designer to define. But usually when you have an action within CDS, it's in the context of a service that exists in ONAP. And so usually it's in the context of either a VNF, a PNF, or a VF module, or a VNFC. So it's usually bounded to a resource of ANAI.
And so this is going to be a different microservice, right? Resource resolution?
Hang on, stop spoiling my stuff. Right now everything is, so all I've presented so far is within this runtime component, one microservice. You have the resource template API, and you have the resource resolution engine. Okay? Well, the database is already separated, but okay. But I just wanted to share what we have today.
But if I just recap a little bit, that means that, let's say you want to get the config assign template that you resolved during the config assign phase, and you want to tie it to a VF module, then you could use the VF module UID in the NEI to save that into the template resolution?
Exactly, yes.
So every time you want to get, what's the template?
Yes.
Okay, I know it's a VF module, it's a type.
Exactly. So then later point in time, what this is going to give you is a history of what has been assigned and pushed in the network for a given resource. And so if you recall what I explained yesterday, at least for our vision, is to have this single source of truth of the config being present in the network. If we have these capabilities coming from CDS, then, CDS provides that.
Can I see that table one more time?
Yes, yes.
Does that work now?
Sorry?
Does that work now?
Yes.
I've been using the resolution key as the DNFA.
Be cool, man.
But
Yes, this is there working in our environment.
But there is an issue, right? What Alexis says, history for that VNF or VF module. So that means that if you use the VNF, the resource ID and resource type, that has a potential of returning a list. Whereas you are interested on a specific instance of that, you still may find it relevant to use the...
What we should add is like a configlet ID as well.
Is what, sorry?
Configlet ID. Whatever configlet you have resolved, right?
Yeah,
This is the state of that configlet itself.
Yeah, so that's the template resolution ID.
Yes.
You call it configlet. Here, this is this ID, exactly.
Template resolution. Okay, okay.
It's basically the configlet.
But how does that tie to the resource resolution?
Well, through the resource ID, resource type.
Yeah, but you have a list.
What do you...
Because meaning that you can generate the same configlet content for the same ID, right? Like when you're saying?
What do you...
A PNF can have today one config generated and stored, and tomorrow, let's say, I have another one generated, another payload generated for that PNF.
For example, you can have like 10
to have the history.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're missing a timestamp.
Timestamp is okay, but
No, but
you need the template ID that this content is associated. So let's say you are doing something like.
look, it's actually hang on, because I have the answer. It's blueprint version, blueprint name. If you change the config, the template, because you need a new template, then you're going to bump the version of your.
Not a template, not necessarily.
You generating the same configured content multiple times, right? For the same resource. You need to have a way to correlate that back.
What do you mean multiple times?
If you rerun the same action all over again.
Let's say,
Today, if you rerun, it's going to overwrite the table.
That's what you're saying. You want to keep the history. That means that you should be able to for that configured.
But for me, the idea is the
You do execute action 3 or 4 times.
So we need a timestamp.
Using the
Not
same template.
timestamp. You need to have a configured idea as well. Because timestamp is okay, but then you're saying that you're correlating all the resolved resources within the timestamp instead of a configured ID. Don't you want to tie back to this table itself?
No, I think what we care about here is always the resource ID, resource type. So it's what we want to understand is what's going on for that given resource.
But you'll have a list.
Yeah, but that's fine.
Yeah, but the resolution key is sufficient enough, right? The resource resolution ID will be there in addition to the other one.
oh yeah, but
You're gonna have a resource.
the resource resolution ID is a surrogate key, right? Just increments automatically.
Yeah.
It's not something that you know what
That's
it
okay.
is. You can't.
But the resolution key would be like a VNF ID or PNF ID wouldn't change.
No, but I think.
Resolution ID is an auto-generated one, whereas your resource ID and resource type are consistent.
Also, Mike just gave me a very valid point is one resource is not necessarily just for one template. One resource can be shared across templates.
Exactly. My point is that if you're executing the same configlet multiple times, you'll have a list of resources. And how do you tie that back to a configlet?
No, I overwrite. Right now, I'm overriding.
But you said you want to keep the history.
Yeah, so I need to add a timestamp.
But if you're overriding based on
But if
timestamp.
No, if I add a timestamp, I don't override anymore. I just fill in the database with the timestamp, and then I'm going to have
But even if you do the timestamp, how do you correlate back to the configlet?
I still have that resource ID. I have the artifact name.
Right. The artifact is the same.
Yes.
For all the.
Yeah, but okay, so for that given artifact name for this given time, I know exactly what are all the resources in the template.
Instead of the time, why don't we do the configlet ID itself? Because the configlet ID would also have a timestamp.
But here we're talking about time history. That's why I believe timestamp is, we're talking about history.
You could use the resolution.
Yeah, you can keep using the resolution ID like I was mentioning. So if you want to identify each configlet as a separate item, they will have an auto-generated resource resolution ID.
Result.
Which can save and reference.
Yeah, you can, that could be, you can call it configlet ID, if you like.
Because what you want to do if you want to create that is either you want to get the last one, or if you want to get to the
Historical.
and either you have to save the resolution ID, somewhere that you can reference, okay, I want this exact version of the assignment of this template. Otherwise, you get the last one, but after that, yes, you can get a history, but it's just to get the history.
Maybe, is the resolution ID the same thing as the configlet ID?
I don't know what
Result contains the config.
You can call it that,
The result-
because
You can call it that if you want.
a unique ID for every resource.
But actually, no, it's not the configlet ID, because one resource can have one resource in NAI, that PNF can be used for 10 different services.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I want to tie this back to a configlet.
No, I'm tying this back to the blueprint name, blueprint version,
Blueprint name,
and artifact name.
version.
So I know which.
That blueprint name, blueprint version, and artifact, you can execute that specific package multiple times.
But if I do it one time, I'm going to configure once. If I do it a second time, I'm going to override the configuration I pushed.
But you want to, I thought we said you're overriding the configuration network, but
Yes.
you want to store the historical content of.
Then if I just add a timestamp, I'm in the database, I would have the first one, say day 0, then I put the second one, and timestamp would be day 1. So for the same combo, I'm going to know, hey, what I pushed at day 0, what I pushed day 1, and and so on and so forth. So I'm going to have the history that way.
Right, so then the correlation that you're doing is then you go into the configlet table, you look at the timestamp of when the configlet was generated, and then you have to look at the configlet for that combination of blueprint name, artifact name, and artifact type, or the configlet type, whatever it is. You're looking at the timestamp to get all of the correlation.
You can't do that. You can't use the date.
No, but I don't.
That's what I'm...
Different table.
I don't want to use the date to correlate the table. I want to use the blueprint name, blueprint version, the resource type, resource ID. That's what I want to use.
Resource type, resource ID, but for resource type, resource ID, blueprint name, blueprint version, again, you get a list.
Yes.
And that list can have multiple resources
Yes.
that are resolved with different timestamps.
Yes.
How do you correlate back to a configlet?
Well, they're... Okay. I understood the point now. Yes, okay, because the timestamp is not going to help because it's going to be maybe a few seconds different or whatnot. Okay.
You want some kind of transactional ID when you executed that.
I see, now I understand better. So you want a relationship, but that's the thing is, I don't know if we want that relationship. So what you're saying is we're missing a relationship between the template and the resource.
Of course, because the resource you're capturing is for that particular content.
I don't, that's something that also is of annoyance today with CDS is every resource is bound to a template. I don't think that's good. We can have we can define some resources that allows you to derive another resource that will be inputted in that template. So,
Request ID or something like that?
yeah, all the, I don't know.
That correlation, I mean,
Yes.
it's bound to an action, you can say, or request ID or something, but, you have to have that correlation, otherwise it's very hard to do this correlation.
Yes, now I get the point. You need that correlation. We need to think that through. Yes, I think this is a valid point. Now I understand this. Because, yeah, if you don't have this correlation, how do you get from the resource to the template?
Trace ID.
The template, but
Yeah, it
You
could,
receive a process call.
it could be a request. Maybe it's a request ID. Maybe.
Whatever we decide, we want to state what it is, because timestamp is not the answer.
No, but maybe it's a request ID.
It could be request.
So, because for a given request, I know exactly what's going to be its ID.
How many people know request ID, what logic would you have to extract this based on the request ID?
Which request?
You can do this request multiple times, it could fail one time, it may not fail the one time. You want to, to me, it's always coming back to configlet ID, because that configlet is downloaded,
So, but
or some action, because that action could be successful. So
is configlet ID in your mind more granular than a resolution ID, or it's the other way around? Can you have more than one configlet ID for one resolution ID?
yes.
Okay, so then you do need it, yes. But what I was thinking was, if you have the resolution ID and the resource type is...
But the resolution ID in this table is a sequential serialized key.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be the key, it's not the configlet ID.
Yeah, it cannot be the configlet ID, now I understood that. But what I mean is, the PNF1 of object type of PNF2, with a date, you could have two dates. The only thing that...
Right, you can do add VLAN multiple times. It could be like an add VLAN template multiple times. How do you know if it's configlet 1 or 2 or 3 or 4? You need...
Yeah, but each time you have a different resolution key because you resolve it again. But yeah, you need to get more...
If you put the resolution ID into the configlet table, maybe that will work. But you need correlation. You need some correlation.
If it's more granular, the configlet is more granular compared. So in a resolution ID, you're resolving more than one configlet. Then let's have a configlet ID that way.
And I think, Alexei, to your point, you don't want to solve this just for configlet.
Resolution for one.
No, exactly.
Solve this for
Okay, so it's the other way.
the component of resource resolution itself.
yes, it's higher level.
So it may, you might want to even keep this information in case where we don't even want to store configlets, because we don't store configlets all the time, right?
Oh, exactly.
Currently.
Yeah. Right now, by default, we don't store anything.
Right.
You need to say that you want to.
So in one resolution, you are having multiple configlets.
In one resolution,
Yeah, you can.
have multiple.
If you have many temp, if you have 10 temp.
The other way around, no?
No. What you're saying is one action can have multiple configlets. It's like you have an order, the action is like an order, and that order has multiple transactions, and for each of those transactions, you want to correlate back to your result content. Because each transaction can even retrieve the same content in a different way. One can go to Netbox, the other one goes to like MDSal, right? So your capabilities will be different.
Right. Okay, so it's...
We just want to get all of those from one specific.
Well, you want to get for that transaction, what is the mechanism you were able to retrieve that information? Because, for example, like if you do Netbox in one example and MDSal in another example, if you do an unassignment type of flow, you're not going to unassign something that came from MDSal, because MDSal is just a storage place. You want to do unassignment on the transaction that went from Netbox, because that's the transaction that did the allocation itself, so you want to undo that.
But this just tells us then the resource resolution ID is misused in this table, in the resource resolution table, because in one request you should, if you're resolving more than one resource, then each should have its own resolution ID. But you're saying that's not the case.
Yeah, I think that representation is just a serial key. It's not the resource resolution ID.
So resource resolution ID is a bad name for it.
Yeah.
It really depends on what type of sources you're tying this to. Because if you tie this to a PNF, which is kind of static in your network, it's pretty much different than if you use the VF module. Because the VF module only exists in your own, service that...
But it's still unique. VF modules are unique because they're UUID convention.
You never have like twice the VF module, 2 times the VF module ID for something completely different.
Right, so is PNF.
Because the VF module is compared to PNF. But PNF, you could have, an assignment for one VF module that configured a PNF, and then another for another VF module, which is completely different, right? And then they would still resolve value for that PNF. Like, I don't know, VNAM ID. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think this table needs some reworking in order to have it fully compliant.
Well, if you want the history.
Yeah.
Well, we need the history.
Sorry.
We need the history.
Yeah.
We also need to rename that other field as well and come up with another field. So the resolution ID should be some kind of a...
It's a surrogate key.
but it's not a resource resolution ID, it's just a resolution ID. Because if it's a resource,
that's because it's the name of the table.
Yeah, but that's not, doesn't make sense.
So, Alexi, today we're passing resolution key whenever we want to store the configlet content itself.
In SO is using resolution key.
SO is using resolution.
But I would like to move SO to use resource ID, resource type instead.
Resource ID.
Tied to the VF or the VNF. Rather.
Okay, but
Right now the resolution key is the VNF ID, I think, or VNF name. I don't recall.
that's fine. But the resource ID, but we need something that ties it to an action itself, because that action is repetitive. So how do we make sure that we tie it to that specific unique action, right?
Yeah, we need to come up with a composite key in CDS for that.
It could be a composite key.
But I would like this to be auto-generated, not user-based.
Auto-generated by, it could be auto-generated, yes. Right. So we need to add something that will do that correlation itself, and tie it back to this table.
Yes.
But it should, I think the main point here is that we want to make sure it's done for both configlet generation and also done for resource assignment type of use cases.
Absolutely. Both, yes. Okay. I'm happy this is bringing a lot of traction. This is very key. So far, that's current state. That's where we are, okay? So as Yuri pointed out, we're missing what we just discussed. to be able to manage fully the life cycle of the resource and the configlet, basically for the unassigned use case. Now that all that has been presented and shared, the idea would be, but I don't know if it's going to be possible, but oh, go ahead.
I just had a thought. If we always store the resource assignment and always have a configure ID, would that solve our problem?
Yeah. So we default to true.
Yes.
I can default to true, and there you go. Yeah, good point. A very, very valid point.
Well, let's do that.
Okay. So now the idea is this microservice, you see, it's crowded, right? It does more and more, and the idea would be, can we split this runtime microservice and to extract from it basically all the resource resolution aspect of it, like the resource resolution engine, the template engine, and the resource and template API. So that's the idea. I don't know if we can do that, but the idea is about the feasibility of that. And Brenda, are you on the line by any chance?
Yeah.
Hey, Brenda. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. And even I like to comment the previous slide also, previous discussions. Okay. So.
Okay.
Can we take that, or it's like we can skip it?
Yes, absolutely, Brenda.
Yeah. My point is completely different. Okay, in terms of resource management and lifecycle management, it's a pretty simple. So for my understanding, it's one thing. It's resource resolution storage that it is not going to handle that lifecycle management. Okay, so only one table that we are going to have just for resource resolution key, which is an auto-generated key. Okay, just it is trying to store that what value it is going to generate, and it is trying to that. We need not to annotate that generated information or whatever the data that we are going to store for the resource resolution key with any other name other than that context ID. In my case, I assume that the context ID, it's the type and along with that some high level ID. So it may be any level, VF module or VNF or any level of that ID.
The context ID is the configlet ID comparison?
No, I'm not talking about config-let also, because we don't want to bother about config-let also. Okay, only thing is talk about topological ID or any other ID. So that's the point I'm trying to bring.
So the context ID would be what? They're like a request ID?
It's a topological ID, not even request ID. Okay.
The topology.
Topology or high level, which level that we are trying to target. Suppose if you are trying to target about VNF, then it should be a VNF ID. And then if you are trying to target, it's a topological, okay, then it's a topological ID. Okay, if you are trying to target about the small subset, it's like that particular subset ID. That's at what level that we are trying to.
That won't work if you have the same action for that topology.
No, we are not going to bother about that action. That's the point I'm trying to say. Okay, so first thing, we are going to have a resolution key, and then which has a mapping of what level of context that we are trying to resolve. Okay. So,
Brenda, one second. I want to make sure that we understand the use cases before we get to the solutioning. So the use case I'm thinking of, let's say we're going to update from BGP neighbor IP address 6 times.
Exactly. That's a point I'm trying to explain. Okay.
So what is the ID we're using to correlate back to our action itself?
Exactly. So BGP, in which level that you are trying to update? You are trying to update at the device level, or you are trying to update at topological? What level? That's the point I'm trying to.
It's the device level.
Device level. So that will be a device ID then.
But that won't work because for that device you can have multiple.
Let me explain that. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So the correlation, what we are going to have that resource resolution to that high level or whatever the context key that we are trying to resolve. Okay, we are not going to bother about the rest of the thing. And parallelly, along with that, we are going to have another process, or even I could say that one more table, which keeps tracks of that entire high level information. So it means like for a particular key, for a particular resolution key, the high-level group key and then subgroup key that we are going to map here in that resource resolution. Okay, so that key that we are going to take to that next high level, so which is nothing but that entire tree structure. It's like entire configlet or entire configuration. Okay, that we are going to map that. So that, okay, say for an example, if I am pointing or if I'm just going to work on particular subset resolution, then resolution will be present in that high level resolution table. And whenever there is a change, then automatically we are going to pick that resolved resolution key, and then we are going to update only the particular path on that high level context key. So in that case, we can keep track of that high level or entire config structure, okay, with the history management and what changed perfectly or what changes had happened, and then we can from that we can generate it. So we can manage that life cycle on that particular table, not on that resource resolution table. Just I'm giving a high level idea. Maybe we can talk further. I think you are.
1 second, Alex, you following, or you want to do maybe possible we can do the whiteboarding, or?
Yeah, I'm having hard time following. Sorry.
Yeah.
Can we, Brenda? Can we?
Do you want to share your screen, Brenda, and maybe if you can draw or on the text note editor?
Let me share that.
Thank you, Brenda.
How much time that we have?
We have 2 hours, Ali?
Oh yeah, we still have.
Until 10:30, so half an hour.
We still have 30 minutes.
Okay, sure.
But it's okay. Yeah, we can.
Give the break.
We can.
There's a break. Next section won't take full. Shorten the break. Make it.
No, we won't skip the break, but we can.
Oh, you're breaking.
The guy who took 40 minutes yesterday?
Oops.
No, I was working with Rashmi.
But and Brenda, please let's consider as well the fact that the initial idea of the discussion is to be able to disaggregate this from blueprint processor. Try to see if we can get.
Yeah, already we can do that. That is very easy. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you.
It's very easy. It's like already there. Yeah. The only thing is like we want to build a Docker container. That's it.
Yes. But then if we do that, we need to create, maybe a gRPC interface to communicate.
It's already there. Just what we want to do is we want to take that entire stack and only deploy that resource resolutions and 2 northbounds that you have. That's it.
Oh, you want to use the same gRPC interface like execution service?
Yeah. Because that is going to be asynchronous, long-running process. Definitely we need that. Right.
And you would just forward that to the resolution microservice like?
Exactly, instance. That's it.
So it hit blueprint processor. If I have component resolution to execute, then I forward the request to that.
Exactly.
Okay.
You can. That's the reason. No, you can decide. You can delegate the process to that separate container, or sometimes no. In my performance, if I consider while I'm doing a southbound transaction, I may want to consider more performance. So in that case, I can use my JVM resource resolution itself. So in that case, we can provide 2 opportunities. One is either I can use my use in my same JVM, or I can delegate to a separate service itself.
Okay, yeah, good. Okay, so I think it does answer in a minute the topic of this 2 hour, but now we can go on with this.
Yeah. That's easy. Yeah. Okay. Coming back to that, we have it's a resolution key. So this is a context. This is a high-level context key. Okay, so it means like a device perspective.
So why?
So can we take the example of the BGP neighbor?
Yeah, please.
We have 2 BGP neighbor updates.
Yeah. Okay.
One ID 1, configured ID 1, or action 1, action 2.
Okay.
And they're both working on the same resource key.
Okay, so it may be a device ID. So in that.
Device ID. Yeah.
No, they have the same resource or different resource?
Same neighbor, we're updating twice.
On the same device?
On the same device, yes.
Okay, so you can decide that. I'm not strict to that device level. So this context key can be any level, and then you can define the type of that. Okay, so similarly, here you can have, so it means like this is a high level controller. Assume that this is the entire configuration or entire group of resources that we are going to keep track of that. Assume that.
Can we just add, to complete this context, can we add the package name and the...
blueprint name, blueprint version?
Yeah.
I think we don't need that. That's the point I'm trying to say. Okay, we don't need that. Because we are going to talk only in a resource perspective there. Okay, we are not going to talk that how it is resolved, and this is my assumption. Okay, just
Brenda,
before we get to that conclusion,
yeah.
I want to just complete this picture, at least for the sake of the table.
And I know for us it's important that so each customer for us internally of CDS, right, they're going to create their CBA, and if at some point for their given CBA they want to know what happened, you know, we need to have the CBA context. It can't be just a device context, because the device can be shared all across CBAs. But
what I'm trying to say, it's like I'm trying to build a resource management system, okay, which is independent of even it is a controller group or CDS or any other system. Just I'm trying to think in that perspective of resource management system. Yeah, I can do the correction.
Yeah, I understand. You can go generic and high level now, and maybe we can adapt CDS after for network controller.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay,
go ahead.
So this is our idea. So it means like this is the entire resource management system table, okay? Even though resource resolution table, it's a part of the particular system, but I'm going to consider this as a resource management system. So we know that what is the configuration and what is the schema for that particular this resource data that we are trying to store. Or even we can upload that while creating or while onboarding the schema for that, or while creating that what kind of resource that we are going to create, we can include that schema and the nature of that. Okay, even that is optional. Okay, it's not a mandatory process, right? So it means
Brenda, just for clarification, the first square that you have that has resolution key and context key, that's the equivalent to what? That's the equivalent of the configured ID and
So we have a context key, and then we have a tags also. Okay, if you try to remember that we already have the tags. Okay, so this tags denotes that path. Okay, one thing is like you can assume that it's a path. Okay, so paths like say for an example XPath or JSON path. Okay.
That's the XPath of the schema of the device?
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Okay, but which we don't have today. But what about the resolution key itself?
Let me come there. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is like, so this is a tags we are going to pass that. So if we are trying to store a particular resource or information or part of that model itself, okay, during our model creation or resource resolution input, okay, then we are going to tag that which resource that we are trying to resolve. So we have a resource resolution key. This is a random. And then we have a context key. Okay, inside the context key itself, we can define a type also. Okay, this is it's an option. Okay, one thing is what I'm trying to concentrate on that context key. Okay, which is nothing the master key of this particular. So what we are trying to do.
One question: why is the path necessary even?
Which one?
Why do we need the path itself? I mean.
Can you come again?
Why do we need the path itself? What's the benefit of having the path?
This path, okay. Say for an example, in a context key, I may resolve a BGP1 in a separate process, and I may resolve that BGP2 in a separate process, and I may resolve the interface in a separate process itself. Okay? So, what I'm trying to say is like, we can resolve this path, subset of that path, even the complete path, or it at any level we can resolve using that resolution key at any level. Only and resource management that I'm going to track not on that resource resolution table, I'm going to track that entire history on that context table. It's like a complete context table. So whenever I resolve the resources, finally end goal, it's like I'm going to update that information on a context key. So once there is a change, then I'm going to update. I know that path, which path that I want to include there. I know that, okay, what is the key? Okay, which from the context key itself, I will come to know that what is the key. Directly, whatever I resolve at any point of time, okay, even if you are doing twice or thrice or any point of time, go and directly update that. and then only you want to keep track of this table. That's it. So it's a very simple system. So now you can have that whether this particular key is activated or you can take this device ID. Now you know the context level and what kind of configuration or what kind of provisioning that you are trying to do. So you can look into the particular path and you can keep track of those particular subset, even path and the device table, whether it is activated or not activated or it's in pending. Okay, you can keep track of that that particular sub-level information separately. So what I'm trying to say is like we don't want to keep track of any information. Okay, only thing is it's considering is a resource management system. Okay, so we are going to resolve that resource and then we are going to update that definition or update that resolved resource in a certain path. That's it.
So Alexei, you understand the idea?
Slightly.
It's basically trying, I guess, to build the device schema itself, like.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, and we have a discussion later today about this. Is my idea is that we have at some point the network. Above the network, we're going to have a mediation layer, and all the systems are going to talk and leverage this mediation layer. That won't be necessarily a device-specific representation, but that might be like a generic model.
Exactly. So in that case, it will be a source of
network.
Yeah.
And
it's from there that you get to the map.
And it's from, exactly. And yeah, I'm trying to wrap up my mind around this. It's
Can we resolve that now, or should we do like an actual mapping exercise, real config data up to the service?
Yeah, this is a good question.
But what Brenda is doing is not changing anything significantly from what we have today. We have the resource ID, he just calls it device ID, and resource type from ANAI. So all I think, and Brenda, if I understood you correctly, so what you're trying to do is essentially create all the resource tables and then reference the resource tables from the resolution or request or whatever other table that there is, right?
Exactly. So, yeah. Exactly. So I'm not modifying any of the information. Only thing it's like, what I'm trying to say, it's like we don't want to bother any complex information. Okay, so only that resolution key, and then mostly I'm interested in the context path and that path. Exactly. That, okay, the context key and the path. So here it's a master. So you can add, as I mentioned earlier, we don't want to bother about, you can take it at any level, device level or topological level or network level or any level. This is going, assume that it's a device, okay? It's like one device you are going to update the configuration. So you are going to update only the partial configuration to the device, but finally end of the day, if you want to take a running configuration or any configuration, just you are making a request at top level and getting that entire request. So it retains that entire state, current state, or a particular date, what state we had. So in that case, we can make that entire history also.
The only thing, for me at least, is that, Brenda, not always we resolve the path, right? Like from resource resolution, we might resolve some metadata that can, have some logic in our templates to generate the, device content itself.
Yeah, so we have that device content generation, right? So the final output would maybe JSON file, right? Or JSON content, assume that.
Yeah.
Okay, so only thing is we are going to say that this path is associated with that group or high-level context key of this particular path. That's it.
So what I was trying to say is that, do we want to solve this problem, or do we want to solve the problem of saying for which action, what is your
that we are not bothered about, right? So that is internal to CDS, right? That is not a perspective of resource management system or lifecycle management system.
But the whole point of what I thought Alexei was trying to do is that we want to add the life cycle of resources and not build the device type of model itself.
Yeah. So this is a life cycle resources. Just I'm giving an example here.
Yes, this is exactly it, yeah.
It's very simple. Yes, that's what idea is very simple.
Okay. I don't know what. what to do from there.
Okay.
No, I'm a little bit confused of, I'm trying to understand what are going to be the next steps for the evolution of what is currently in place to get to the two things of this current topic is first, disaggregate resource resolution from blueprint processor to have it in its own container. I think we briefly touched base on that and we said it's okay. We use gRPC interface and we forward the input, the execution service input if it's of type component resource resolution. So that's one thing we said, right?
Yeah. If you want, we can take a discussion, Alexei. Yeah, even I can speak more. Yeah.
No, I think this is clear. At least to me, this is clear enough. We can explain more and expand more on this if needed. But so that part is clear. Now I understand how we can disaggregate resource resolution from blueprint processor to have an extra resource resolution microservice that is independent. And so this one then can be like can be owned by each service team. So that way there is no security issue in terms of logging and sharing information. But the point here that I'm trying to understand better is, the life cycle of the resource. And so today we're storing this template, we're storing these resources. Most of it is done, right? In the sense of the resource management. All we're missing is, the ability to basically do an assignment. And when we store today, we're storing the dictionary, right? And as part of the dictionary, we have the recipe to do the assignment. So I was thinking maybe we should augment the dictionary to provide also, like you have, as part of the dictionary, the same way we do with the capability in NDSAL. We say, hey, an assign. Maybe as part of a dictionary, we could have the ability to say, hey, assign or unassign. It's similar mindset, if you're following. And so that way, when we are to do like an assignment or the deletion of a service, it's easy to go to that table and see, okay, that dictionary, okay, now I'm calling an assign for this. And so that's the discussion I thought we're going to have. And we sidetracked a little bit from there. And
what Brenda is addressing here is a different...
it's a very different topic.
It's a problem we probably want to solve as well.
Yes.
But it's driving to a different
solution
of what we want to solve as well. I think it's a different problem itself.
Yes. So do you agree on that, Brenda, or no?
So I guess the point, Brenda, like maybe we can give one example of what we do with MDSAL in this box of unassigned and assigned, and circle back and see if it makes sense. So we can come to agreement what the problem statement is and what we're trying to achieve.
Okay. So do you want me to capture that?
Yeah, let's do that.
I can quickly let me share my screen. I can quickly capture this, okay? So today, can you see my screen now? What do you see? Tu peux me montrer?
ASCII. You see ASCII.
Oh yeah, perfect. So you see ASCII, yeah. So today, when you use the macro service macro service create from SO, okay? You have one of the building block that is the assign building block, okay? And this guy goes to SDNC, GR API, and this guy basically is gonna execute the capabilities. And if I look closer into a capability here, what the capability, the way it's defined, is gonna have assign.
So you can say REST capability, right?
Okay, a REST capability, and it's gonna have, and it's gonna trigger in this REST capability, action is gonna be assign, okay?
Right, and
yeah. If you need, just a heads up, if you need to understand better how it works in the SDNC GR API, a little bit of promotion of the documentation here. Sorry, I spent so much time on that doc that I'm bringing it every day. As part of the resource assignment, here, if you want to understand the overall SDNC DG flow logic, here is the explanation at VNF and VF module. So you see here, basically, this is when it arrives.
I want to show you
Oh, yeah, that was on purpose. It's to make sure you guys were full. Thank you for following.
Yeah, we are awake.
I'm happy you guys are following. Okay, so in the user guide, under the design time, under the ONAP specific workflow, under the resource assignment, here you have either the way how to add a new capability, or here I'm explaining you need to, well, and understand the overall SDN/CDG flow. And so here, when it arrives in SDN/CDG API, what's going to happen is it's going to call that DG, and then this DG, and then this DG, and then this DG here is basically have a set of capabilities to execute. And then it's going to call basically CDS, and then it's going to execute all the capabilities. So
the same equivalence of what we do in data dictionary with the
exactly the
rest and payload.
Exactly the same thing. So I don't want to go too deep in this, but my point here is all documented.
So Brenda, any question on that specific topic of what assignment is doing?
Till now I understand you are calling an assignment. So what is the transformation happening on resource side? Just would you please explain that?
So all we're trying to do is, let's say, assign a IP from netbox. So we're calling netbox with a payload, which is a post payload, put or post payload with some input, and the output is an ID and a value that we use that could be OEM IP address or it could be some other IP address.
No, okay, I got the point. Okay, so it means like you are assigning that IP, but what you are trying to target about all the resources, resolved resources, or only specific value of that particular resource that you are trying to target is assigned and unassigned?
It doesn't matter. I guess the point is that when we do assignment, it could be for a list of resources, and that resources can go to netbox or can go to VPN assignment, VRF assignment. It could be MAC address assignment, whatever. It could be any assignment.
Yeah. How you are resolving that resource? Whether that group of the context of resolving that. It could be
group. It could be sequential. That part that we don't care. That's not the point we're trying to make on this specific topic.
No, not specific, but it is related. Why? Because if you are trying to resolve a resource, okay, it is a mixture of multiple levels of resources, okay, then I think you can't manage those assigned and unassigned from that specific action of a resource resolution. You are following
Okay, hold on. Before we get to that point, I want to make sure the point is clear on what we're trying to do in assignment step. All right? So it's just the point of assigning an IP or using a put or post method of a REST API. Make sense? And there's an input we're passing, and there's an output that we're getting, and we're storing that output so that in MD-Sal. And maybe we can show them how we store that information in MD-Sal?
Sure, I have this here. For a given service in MD-Sal, for instance, under the VF module, you have the VF module data, and in there you have the VF module param, and this is the resolution that we're storing in MD-Sal.
Okay, so Brenda, you can see here that we have the parameter name, we have the value that we resolve. It could be a complex value or it could be a string, that doesn't matter. And then you have the capability you use to execute it and the status. Okay, and can you go down to one of the like names or something?
Like this? Oh, maybe not this one?
No, go.
Let me try to find one.
If you can get netbox itself.
Yes.
Okay, whether that is a complex structure or it's individual key parameter value?
It could be both.
Could be both.
Okay, the value doesn't matter. And I'll tell you why it doesn't matter. Because CDS knows how to do assignments from a payload perspective, right? The complex or primitive, it doesn't matter. So here you can see we're storing the parameter name and the value. We're storing the capability. We're storing the status. We're also storing something called the resource key, and those are keys we're passing as input.
It's like input key mapping, basically.
It's like input key mapping, okay? And then what we're doing as part of unassigned, for every capability that's netbox IP assignment, we're calling an action of netbox unassignment, and all we're doing is passing the resource key structure, and based on the resource key structure, we're able to do unassignment, because the resource key structure holds the external key that we use for doing assign or unassign itself. That's the idea.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
Okay, so what Alexei is trying to do is that for this specific topic is the life cycle management for assignment capabilities and unassignment capabilities. Today, when we use CDS, we're able to persist all the resources, but today we don't persist the keys, right? So that's one thing we'll take care of. And one other point I want to make is that, when we do our actions for resource resolution, that action can be executed on this, PNF or VNF or VF module multiple times.
Exactly.
And for each of those actions, we will generate a unique external key that will allocate something, possibly, right?
Yep, to be able to unassign.
Right, like when we do, no. To be able to unassign, you're right.
To be able to unassign.
To be able to assign or unassign. So the main point is that we're trying to make sure that when CDS is doing the unassignment action, we're able to retrieve all the context from the table that Alexei put together, so that we can call the capabilities of an unassigned within the data dictionary concept.
Okay.
Okay, does that, should we say more on this, or does this make it more clear?
No, yeah, I understand. Yeah. Only thing is that I could see that the mapping of a data dictionary, the resolved resources, the status tracking. That's the only thing it's missing there, right?
The status tracking, and today we also, within our context, we don't store this resource key information, right?
Exactly, that's what we're missing.
Resource key is telling us what is the information that is available that could also be used for unassigned.
Or we need a way to manage that group of dictionaries. That's the only thing I can.
So if you look at the big picture, we want a capability that will be able to access this context and then be able to, from the context, extract all in a batch mode, we would like to do it, all the information within the capabilities for doing netbox unassignment for all of them in an aggregated fashion, in a batch fashion. Or do something called another microservice in a batch fashion to do unassignment as well. And some microservices, like within AT&T, let's say, EIPAM, they support an aggregated mode of unassignment of IPs. Or so depending on the microservice, we can send one big transaction with the aggregation of unassignment that we want to do, or we have to do a sequential type of transaction. So the implementation could vary based on the capability itself.
Yeah, got it.
Okay, so that's the focus for this specific discussion. Now, if we correlate back to what Alexei, what you were presenting before, can you show the tables?
Real quick question.
Yes.
So on
Yes.
trying to understand here.
No, even in this case also, what is the dictionary name?
Hang on, Brenda, hang on a minute. There is a question here.
So you're showing the empty cell.
Yes.
And did I hear you say that what's not happening today is some of that resource key is not being saved?
From a CDS perspective, we don't handle the life cycle of resources.
Right.
So we can do assignments, great.
Sure.
But when it comes to unassignments, we have no idea how to unassign. Because we don't store the right context itself.
So you don't have this stuff?
We don't have it.
No.
But it's here, so you have to get it.
No, what we're trying to do is not use MD South store. We want to
always here.
CDS type of solution.
Today it's here only for the instantiation. For one type of use case, it's here.
Because we don't have use cases like post-instantiation or PNF plug and play.
Closed
We
loop.
can do assignments there, but today none of the use cases in ONAP can do unassignments. And that's what we want to introduce, the concept of life cycle itself.
Thanks.
So Brenda, go ahead.
Yeah, Brenda, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. So even that is also possible. It's like anyhow we want to manage that information outside of that resource resolution itself. I'm thinking that. Okay, before that let me point out some other information here itself. here the dictionary name that you are trying to use, I think it is not, whether it is a valid here, dictionary name here, because why? Because we are resolving a resource in a group of dictionaries. Okay, it's not as specific to that only one dictionary. Okay, it means like the context or group of dictionary, out of the group of dictionary, then we are to solve a group of resources, and then
no. It's not storing the context of the resolved, resource resolution component. This is actually storing for each parameter resource that we are calling the capability we use and the status itself, and the keys that we use to pass to resolve it. That's what this table is trying to store.
Okay. So in that case, slightly I will think of, because that is the internal AT&T design, whatever we have done, this is the same thing that we have done internally. But what I'm trying to think, it's like, I am trying to think in a different way. So stating that resource, while creating the context itself, we can define that what level of tracking that we want to have. So it means along with the schema of that context key, if I try to tell that what are the paths, okay, I want to keep track of that, then automatically I can decompose that high level table, okay, into that sub level, or it's like automatically I can translate that status into another table, okay. So with that status tracking itself, I think you guys are following me.
Before we get to the path, let's solve it without that path, because then we can complete the full picture.
Yeah, let's try to complete what we're missing just, and then we can improve, Brenda, I think.
Yeah, sure.
Because
okay.
If we can, yeah.
So if we go back to what Alexei is proposing, so what we, what we kind of debated in the beginning of the meeting, we said that today, since, sometimes we store the context, sometimes we don't store the context, we said we're always going to store the context in this table. That, and we also will correlate the context, the configured ID, back into the resource table itself. This way, we also will add an external key. So this way, we'll be able to track, the capability, the resource name, the value, and the resource kind of keys that we need to use within the data dictionary implementation to do an assignment as well. With that, do you see any issues in that type of implementation?
But still, we're missing the notion of how to do this in assignment.
Well, you have a workflow action that you have to call unassign.
No, as part of the data dictionary. Today we're...
But so wouldn't we have an unassignment dictionary?
Okay, so how?
Capability.
How?
So for that parameter, you want to add a unassignment capability.
Yeah, like either for data dictionary, you have unassigned data dictionary reference, or for that data dictionary, you know how to do, the data dictionary is expressing...
The definition should also include unassignment?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Or that's an idea.
Right. To me, the simpler would be another capability, but if we want to do something that...
But it would be more streamlined.
Sends the current dictionary to do unassignment as well.
It would be more streamlined, and it would be easier to manipulate the resource life cycle.
Yes. So maybe bring up the dictionary now and...
because you would define one time the data dictionary and let me take
all the functionality.
All the functionality you care about.
Yeah.
We still hold the concept of a dictionary is a resource that is assigned multiple times and you don't care about it. Like, it's not an IP that's unique to you.
It could be both.
It could be both. Okay, so it's
here
dedicated to capability if you're assigning a unique resource.
Repeat that one more time.
So the difference between data dictionary and capability, the way I understood it back from last year, was that a data dictionary is like, let's say, your DNS IP address that you keep giving it to all your requests. But an actual IP address that you reserve from an IPAM that is unique to you is a capability. does that definition still hold true?
No, because what Alexi did, he exposed like post payloads and put payloads through data dictionary itself.
Okay.
So it's not just be like in Casablanca release, we had the idea of only doing retrieval.
Yeah.
Right? He went ahead and extended the put and paste.
A script that runs as part of a data dictionary, then you can do whatever you want.
Whatever you would like, right? Because now you have that, we also need to close the loop of making sure, because before we did gets. If you do gets, you don't need to unassign, right? There's no allocation involved. Now that we extended to do put and post capabilities, you want to be able to complete the picture and unassign it as part of the delete functionality or change management type of flows itself.
Right now we're doing unassigned, but
But this is, but unassigned for the instantiation use case. For config assign, how do you do that?
We don't have anything.
You can't.
we do.
So today, whatever you're going to assign during config assign,
Good, we hacked it.
Oh, you do hack it. Okay, you don't do it in the platform way. Yeah.
And we saw the status of the service.
no, but that's the point is,
The module.
don't share your hack. I don't want people to say this is good.
Yeah, but no.
It is functional.
Yeah, that's what.
No, but it is good and functional, but the point is it would be better if we could provide platform capabilities.
Yeah, platform capabilities what we.
And like built in. So here in this example, I'm sharing the data dictionary here to create the netbox IP address, right? And this is basically how to create a netbox IP address. I also have another data dictionary to do the delete netbox IP address, and this is how it is. But now, what I'd like is the ability in the same data dictionary to express the create or the assign and the unassign for that same IP address. So instead of having create netbox IP address, I could have netbox IP, and I could handle both assign and unassign from there directly. And so that way, if I'm storing here for any resource the data dictionary name and version, then I would be able to treat during an assignment without having to,
I think maybe this is where we might want to introduce a custom component itself and not even deal with data dictionary for unassignment. So if you do an unassignment flow, you have the custom component just go through all the tables and do call unassign.
But how do you know what is an assign of this IP address? How do you know the recipe to do the unassignment of the IP?
You build it in the custom component based on the
that's where, you already have a way to express how to do assign. Why don't you use the same way to express how to unassign?
So the only reason I say this, because then it's like you have to create another template. It's like a simplification.
No, it's the same template. So for unassign, there won't be any template. The component resource resolution, imagine you have an unassigned action to this, so you add an extra parameter, whether assign by default, unassign if you pass in. The unassign, all it would do is it won't look at the template at all. It will just look at the table here, and it would loop over all the resources.
But you have to have mapping, right? What you're describing. If we have a dictionary.
No mapping, nothing.
So you have a custom component then?
No.
How does it know to do unassignment?
So, okay. For the component resource resolution, I'm going to have as input, so blueprint name, blueprint version, artifact name, and I'm going to have the resource ID, resource type.
Or you say config with ID for now?
Or whatever it's going to be. What I'm going to do is I'm making a query in the table. I'm retrieving all the resource resolution.
That's the custom component behavior.
No, but I just want to augment the resource resolution component with the unassigned capability. I just want to augment this. I don't want to create another one. So that way, the component resource resolution is complete. It's able to do assign and unassign. So it's able to manage the overall use life cycle. Right now, I see the component resource resolution as incomplete. I can just do assign.
Okay, so you're saying that you want extend the component resolution to do unassigned. So we don't want to do mappings.
Exactly. No, exactly. No
okay, that's a clarification. Maybe
no template, no mapping for an assignment, nothing. You just need to.
All you're saying is you have you're calling this component resource resolution. You have to say something that will say that you want to do unassigned.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And you're doing unassignment for everything.
For that.
Given configlet. For one use case.
Yeah.
And some other use case you might want to do for a specific parameter itself.
So that you can have the granularity to choose.
Right. So then you have to pass like some parameter name.
So you could have the granularity to.
Okay. So let's maybe capture that as a requirement.
Okay. But that's how I envision it.
Okay.
Because for me.
That completes the picture. Okay.
To me, this would be the minimal impact on the code today, and the minimal impact on the user as well to provide this. So whether it's for user purpose usability purposes or whether it's for the implementation purposes, this would be very minimal. But hang on, the premise of all this is that the data dictionary provides the assign and unassign. And I don't think we have any...
Well, if you, would it be dictionary? But why do you need dictionary? Dictionary is used only for mappings.
No, but dictionary is used for, it's the recipe. It's not just the mapping.
No.
It's providing here, it's telling me what path to use and like post and which IPAM and so on. So, yeah. Because the mapping here, I don't care because all the information that I need for the unassigned is going to be present in the table.
But
I don't need to resolve them.
So we have no mapping file. Let's say we have no mapping file.
No, because look, if you look here, so to delete, I need the IP address ID, okay?
Yes.
But that IP address ID is going to be in the table already.
It will be in the
So I can directly fetch it from the table instead of having any mapping.
It's in the table stored as a name value pair, right? External key, whatever it may be. So my question is something, because in here I guess we have, where's the definition of IP address ID?
Nowhere.
You have to have the
input. Yeah, but I put it there, but it's not done. It's not done. There is no definition of it.
Okay, all right.
It's not. Maybe it was input. I don't know. It's not there. It's not, or maybe it was SQL, reading it from SQL. But the point is, the idea here is that this, for the unassigned, I don't need mapping because it's going to be in my table already, that specific value. And I can just map it from the table.
But in your custom component, you are basically saying for this dictionary, go find me the unassignment dictionary.
Yes.
Or do we need to, what I'm trying to
No.
do you need that? Or
No, I want to say that for this dictionary name, if I'm doing an assign, execute the unassigned portion of it.
You want to execute?
You define in the data dictionary.
Yeah, exactly. Here, I'm expressing here the assign, right? It's opposed to my IPAM. I'm creating the value. Here, I'm expressing the delete to my IPAM. The URI is different. Instead of having two dictionaries to say delete IP and create IP, if I can have just one that is going to say, hey, the source for assign is this, and the source for unassigned is that.
And the output of the assignment, then you save it during the resolution, right?
Yes.
Because you need the ID.
Yeah.
And
So
That we agree.
That's
Only, I think, I don't know if you need a dictionary definition for, or you add this custom component, but I guess that topic...
If you add custom component, that is extra work for the designer.
But no, it's the developer. When you add your capability for supporting assignment, you just...
But right now, it's the data dictionary that supports the assignment.
So I guess what you're describing is a use case maybe where you do the DSL implementation and you do some allocation.
Yes.
And then you want to unassign those use cases as well.
And whether it's for REST or SQL can be...
You have the same path. Okay.
Because for us, we have teams that manage their own database and also their own REST system.
Yes.
And they could fully manage their database and REST system through the data dictionaries using post, delete, or select, or delete, whatever they want. And so if they can express everything with data dictionary...
Okay, so I guess I see...
Do you understand?
I understand.
Wouldn't this fit more in the life cycle management of the resource that we scheduled 2 hours?
Oh, the life cycle for the resources tomorrow?
Yeah.
We could segregation, and it's a combination of topics.
Oh yeah, but tomorrow, it's true, tomorrow we have like a 2 hour on this. Well, I think we...
But let's finish it. We're almost there.
We're almost there.
If you guys prefer, we can switch today. We can do the queuing tomorrow Wednesday.
Yeah.
No, tomorrow's discussion will be still, there will be still things to discuss. This is just a small portion of it.
No, of the discussion, we can switch just the life cycle management.
Okay,
so I think we have an understanding, right? So we want to make sure that the unassigned capabilities are executed itself as part of the unassigned flow. We will extend the resource resolution component to support that. So Brenda, coming back to you, does this clarify the requirement?
Sorry, I didn't follow that. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's not an issue. Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you, Brenda.
Although he's gonna give us a pass.
Code review.
No, but Alexi, do you think we're gonna be able to add this trigger in the, like, component function? Or so, let's say you have a script which, you know, you cannot do the assignment or the assignment with a single post REST call, right? So maybe you need some logic.
The script, the same.
You have item script or...
You have, okay, if you need a script to do assignment, you can use a script to do an assignment, but you're going to provide the script for one and the other.
Yeah.
Okay, so you wouldn't have a kind of a class you can derive from that calls assign and unassign. So then you could have a function which is like process and rollback, right? I'm getting that?
To be thought through, yes, I understand your point. Maybe this is a good idea for this script capability.
So basically, you could have a kind of abstract class in the code where in your script you derive from, and then it implements assign and unassign. So basically, you have two methods in your script. One for assign, where you do the complex code for assignment, and then unassign, which you do the complex code for the unassign.
So that what you're
kind of
referring,
process and rollback.
what you're referring to is possible, but I think we have other use cases where we want to also enable this capability through the resource resolution component itself, where you don't use a script, where you just have a bunch of dictionaries, right? Where you do allocations, gets whatever, and we read a table and we can...
But this is an enhancement, what you said, Seb. So let's...
I know, because for my use case, this data dictionary post, it's not going to work for
all your use cases.
It's pretty...
Mm-hmm.
You have weird requirements from service things.
So I guess the main question, Alexi, can we, if you go back to that data dictionary, context, can we extend that itself to be supported, or?
Yes. I think we can, yeah.
That's what I'm...
Yeah, I think we can definitely support this.
So maybe we can prototype and then...
yeah, we can do a prototype, a demo, and then we'll see if we're happy with this or how to get it. I don't think it's a tremendous amount of work to do.
Okay, because this is a big game changer.
I know. He's been asking me that for so many times now.
Okay.
To provide him a solution.
So from a requirements perspective, we said resource resolution component needs to be extended to support unassigned. An assignment based on the data dictionary capabilities unassigned. We also said that the resource tables shall be extended to store the resource keys and the configlet ID,
yes.
right? And we also said that your default should always be true.
Yes.
Okay, is there anything else I'm missing?
No, I think this is good. Oh, yeah. The topic was about disaggregating resource resolution from blueprint processor, so that's a different one. But this one to basically do is, what we said with Brenda is, so if we have another microservice for just resource resolution, we can put the right code in there, the right jar, and we just put the right dependency in there, and we provide a gRPC server implementation, the same that we have already in blueprint processor, and we just delegate the resource resolution component execution to that microservice.
So as part of your resource resolution action, you will have another component?
No. For the user, it's going to be hidden.
It's hidden.
Yeah.
So all you're doing in the back end is just calling, as part of resource resolution components, you
forward to another microservice that will do exactly what we do today.
Or resource.
So that way, because
API.
That way we're getting closer to a real microservice, because right now our runtime microservice is pretty big service.
But the disaggregation, can you repeat the disaggregation purpose?
Yes. So the resource resolution process overall, comprising the APIs, the database management for the table, and the resource engine and template engine, all that we put in a separate microservice. So it's going to be the resource resolution or resource management microservice. And whenever we have a component resource resolution to execute, the blueprint processor will pass through that execution to the resource management microservice using the gRPC interface.
Okay. And just do me one more favor, repeat you said database management, template,
So resource, template, whether it's API or database management, along with resource resolution engine and template engine.
okay. And database management for persisting the resource.
Yes.
Okay.
This is less high priority, but this is a nice to have. Because that way, if we have all the resource resolution happening in a specific microservice, then, you know,
it's stateless.
But even more, because, you know, there's a lot of logging that come with the resolution, and some teams might don't want their log to be accessible or visible by other teams. And so if it's its own microservice, and we provide the way to dynamically set from the blueprint processor using endpoint selector, say, hey, do the resolution in this resource resolution microservice, then each team can own their own resolution microservice.
So I can say
that's for
database
multi-tenancy type of thing.
Side of the microservice for resource resolution.
Oh yeah, database is in ONAP, you know, it's this database as a service type.
It's going to be the MariaDB.
Yeah, Galera cluster. Cluster provided by ONAP, that's the one we want to use.
That's the MariaDB?
Yes, it's the Galera cluster.
Okay, so I captured those items.
Thank you. Sorry, we took a 20 minutes extra on the agenda.
Oh, go ahead.
Yes.
I'm still trying to figure it out how this the future resource resolution microservice fits like end to end. Like what should be the flow? That's what I'm trying to figure it out.
What should be what?
Like what should be the flow or what the flow is going to be?
Okay.
Like when this resource resolution is like, so from assign, SO is telling SDNC and then the CDS, right? Then instead of CDS it is going to be resource resolution.
Yeah.
And then from resource resolution.
So let's talk about the use case.
I can
config deploy?
Let's yeah.
You want me to whiteboard?
Yeah, like just to,
Okay.
And also in how for config deploy it will be.
But it doesn't matter if you deploy config.
Yeah, but config deploy there will be a different processor, right?
Alex, you use config assign, config deploy because it applies for both VNF and PNF?
What matter is, what actually will need to be to show this?
Like just like a building block with the resource resolution.
Which one? So config assign?
Config assign.
Config assign.
You have config assign.
Sorry.
Then this guy, it goes to CDS, okay?
Self-service API.
With, CDS runtime, and this guy is using Jordan's. Now, as part of config assign, in the CDS runtime, you're going to have a component resource resolution, you agree?
Yeah.
Or resource assignment, I don't know. I'm sorry for the writing, I'm a software, so usually I write. Okay, you have your group of that.
Yeah, yes.
Now, what's going to happen? Then you can have other, right? You can have like a component script after also. Component script execution. You can have that also, right? So whatever you can have, but it doesn't matter. What I'm saying is, as part of CDS runtime, so actually let me call it different. Let me call this blueprint process.
Yeah.
Because this is what it is. Now you would have the resource, management processor, or resource management, or resource processor. Yeah, resource processor. Likewise, likewise, garbage interface. And whenever this guy needs to do resource resolution, it will just forward it to here. Okay. And this guy will reply and say, okay, it's good, it's done. And then this guy will proceed to the next item to execute in the workflow.
And when it comes to config deploy, it will talk to the processor, it will talk to resource, this one. And what is the information which is stored? Let's say if I want to ask, like.
Config deploy is acting on the context that is generated, not on the resource table.
Okay, so it will get the.
So, okay, don't forget there is a database here as well.
Yeah, so it will, okay.
There is this database here, okay? Okay? This guy then will store the output here.
Okay.
And the script here, this script is able to read here as well, right?
And when it comes to, like, let's say for the netbox, is it the capability? Is it still going to go to SDNC or?
Resource processor, REST, netbox.
So in this flow, SDNC is involved or no?
Config assign, config deploy.
Config assign, config deploy, SDNC is not involved.
Okay, so there is no like DGs and all this stuff, or
there is no DG and all this stuff.
Okay, that's.
And what I want to do, if we finalize this, even for resource assignment, okay, then you will have because S already goes directly to CDS for config assign.
Yes.
You can have the choice for the resource assignment now, either to go as it is today, default path, or to say to also just use CDS and use this. Okay, so that way, whenever you need to add a capability, you don't need to go into the DG, you don't need to understand all that anymore. And it's even for the user. All the user cares about anymore is the data sharing, defining the assign and unassign is the data sharing. So that way, the user experience is going to be tremendously enhanced. Because then the user, they don't need to care about DGs or their capability. It's built in the data sharing, which is something they already know because they have to do data sharing already. So that's the idea.
Okay. And if the data dictionary is part of the CBA, it's even better.
Shut up.
It is part of CBA. It is part of, Alex, it's simple as that. It is part of CBA.
It is part of CBA, what are you saying? Sorry, the whiteboard is, my explanation is, the drawing is very bad, but I hope it does explain. Okay, that's the idea.
I shared the drawings over the webcam.
Wow, man, you have told me and I would have done a better drawing.
So with this workflow, you're going to bypass MDSAL altogether?
No. You still have MDSAL for the flow of cloud parameter resolution.
Resource assignment.
Right.
If you want, that's what I'm trying to say. You can. So I want to introduce the ability to either you go to MDSAL, either you don't. Because, okay, let me come up with a very different behavior.
Because for now, I think it would be easy to use that for the config assign. Yeah. Because config assign already has
not only getting yes, you probably run into them details, but I don't care.
No, okay, look.
They haven't faced that.
You get it.
Alexi, did you hear that?
What?
Yeah, the problem with empty styles, it doesn't scale.
Did you hit that yet?
That hurts for me.
But I want you guys to understand. In SO, you have a CDS plan, okay? You have as well an SDNC plan. Today, SO uses the CDS client to talk to CDS for resource resolution. No, for config assign and config deploy. Okay. SO talks to a DNC for assign. And here I'm talking the building block of SO, okay? Okay, that's what it is today.
And just put the SDNC to CDS also.
Yeah. But the point here that I'm trying to say is, in SDNC, okay, you have an MD file. And right now, the beauty of this is that for assignment, everything is going to be stored in NDSL, and this assignment is already taken care of for this. But if you need to do an assignment for this, today, you can. It's like a game, okay? What we discussed is we would provide now the unassignment capability. So what I'm saying is, if we provide the unassignment capability in CDS, why do I need to go in a DNC and MDSL to have the unassignment capability? I can, if I want to, but I could directly go to CDS. And so in SO, instead of having SO to go for one thing here and another thing here, I could have SO going for everything here.
So this opens the option to get rid of the netbox and influx.
This
DG,
gives the option to never do DGs anymore to come up with a capability, and to only express that either through data dictionary, REST DB, or through a script. Okay? That's what it's opening the door to. And you will have the same, functionality there, once, between this and this. And I want to provide this option, because us internally, that's where we want to go.
Yeah.
But ONAP today is doing that flow, and we don't want to disrupt this flow, because we have users of this flow. I think you are users.
We're using it.
For instance.
But I think long-term perspective, right, we also are moving towards decoupling the SDNC and, the ODL from...
Even if MDSL doesn't scale, this is already like the path toward...
This is a path towards binary download of ONAP.
Getting rid of it.
Yeah.
But there are...
The scaling issue is an architectural issue we have to deal with anyway, so.
No.
My comment was more like a short-term thing, like, if you're thinking of doing anything like short-term before we pull that out.
No, so far for us, it's not an issue.
Okay.
We don't see that scalability issue for us. It's very minimal what we do, so that's okay. So that's the idea. So, okay. So this is today, and it's a very big whiteboard. Two pens that is very important.
There's probably one that doesn't work.
Well, anyhow, this is today and this will be tomorrow. That's where I want.
Target.
That's where I want to go. Okay. So that way, and these can be configurable. In SO, I want to make that configurable. Today, SO goes to GR API. So today, SO goes to either VNF API, GR API. Yes, I want to introduce CDS. Okay. Again, people, that they're going to say, hey, yet another path, blah, blah, but regardless of what they're going to say, that's what we want to do.
Yeah, and even via that API, we want to get rid of it.
It's deprecated.
Yeah, it's deprecated, yeah. But I'm not saying...
Formally deprecated in Frankfurt and remove it in the tier one.
Okay, so BNF API is deprecated.
Yeah.
So it's Raoul and now as well.
But I don't want to say we want to deprecate GR API. That's not my point.
No.
I don't want to do that at all. My point is just I want to offer the ability to, if you don't have to go to it, then you don't, then you go direct.
So the main thing from a SO and CDS tighter integration, how do we introduce now we have a CDS type of client that's generic. We have a generic client, but we always have to do code to kind of invoke new actions.
I don't like the implementation as it is today.
So there's some work that I think we need to look into, overall SO and CDS tighter integration. Yes, that's...
He's going to do all of it. He's going to fix that all for you.
Very good. Steve will be very happy then.
That's going to be our topic tomorrow. In 1 week. No, I'm
in 1 week.
I'm kidding. I don't know from when you are.
But we have teams from Nokia, we have teams from Ericsson, we have teams from Tech Mahindra as well. So I want to make sure that we can come up with a design.
Because the design
discuss that.
Yeah.
But because it's not just about assigned building block, it's also LCM, it's other type of actions.
Some bigger issues that we are going to express tomorrow and that we want to tackle as part of this.
Okay, that's in the agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
Tomorrow. But this is part of integration with CDS, but SO has, for us, has bigger issue.
Whatever we do as the SO integration should also, similar type of thing should apply to policy. We should have we should not, our solutions should not be different.
Actually, policy is already a step ahead.
They're able, with
They will be able to ingest CDM and to be dynamic. SO right now we start coding.
Okay, all right. So more to come on that topic.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so Ali, I'm going to stop the recording. Can we take a 10, 15-minute break?
Yes, so let's get back at 11:15.